Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another video for you guys. This is another one that was requested called Adult Sakura versus Madara. Now, this one does sound a little bit weird to me because, we know Madara's feats. We've seen them. But the thing is, we don't really know much about Sakura, especially when she's an adult. Because, if you look at the Boruto anime or the Boruto manga, she doesn't really do much. She's basically in the background. And the only time she did do something was when it was when she went up against Shin Uchiha and the Sarada Gaiden, the one that was written by Kishimoto, probably the last thing that was written and drawn by Kishimoto. Right now I know he's in charge of the story when it comes to the Boruto manga, but he's also not technically drawing it. Even though you can see a little bit of his influence in the recent chapters when you have characters doing those, the exaggerated faces where their eyes go completely white and they have these completely cartoonish expressions. That's definitely Kishimoto. He's used to having that in his stories, especially his manga. So anyway, again, I don't know how to feel about this. This is from Swagkage. This is one of his most recent video, so let's just go ahead and watch it. And as always, I look forward to hearing what he's saying, how he's going to go about this, because I definitely wouldn't know how to answer this.
All right. So, real quick, I know I've said some stuff about Sakura in the past, and also said some stuff about Madara in the past that are kind of incompatible with what I'm going to be saying in this video. I get it. I don't believe all of those things anymore. Let's not bring them up. All right. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks. So another thing, actually, two things, not just one. Just hear me out. Just hear me out for a second.
Okay.
So
he's changed his mind on certain things. Okay, that's normal. That's normal. Nothing wrong with that.
Could Sakura beat Madara? Well, it depends, and I don't mean on like where they fight or what intel each one of them has or whatever. I don't care about any of that. That's not what I'm talking about. Maybe it'll come up later, but like the important thing is which version of each character we're talking about. I talked about this on Twitter with a couple people, and I don't feel like I should have to say this, but just to be safe, you got some free time. Like, don't get on to me for stating the obvious, like you don't like you got somewhere to be or something. All right, so this Sakura is not the same as this Sakura. Okay, this Sakura is not the same as this Sakura. None of these Sakuras are really even similar, like, at all.
Okay.
Especially if we're talking about combat ability. It's the same thing as, like, this Madara and this Madara aren't the same, and neither one is the same as this Madara, who isn't the same as this Madara either. So the reason I say all of this is because I want everybody to know better than to, well, let's use an analogy, actually, right? If this Madara could throw a rock, like, let's say 69 meters, and for whatever reason, in a hypothetical fight with, say, Jirobo, Madara needed to be able to throw a rock at least 55 meters. Well, in this case, it would be pretty fair to assume that this Madara, and especially this Madara, would be able to clear the 50-meter rock throwing challenge. Now, on the other hand, let's say we knew Jirobo's rock throwing record was 75 meters. And for whatever reason, part of their deathmatch involved a rock throwing competition. I don't know how the outcome would affect the fight, but just play along, all right? It wouldn't really be fair, I'm sure you would agree, to say, well, see, man, I don't think Madara can do it because his record is 69 meters, Jirobo's is 75. It seems pretty clear because obviously it would be fair to assume that Madara had gotten stronger since then. So what I'm trying to say is it's fair to bring up feats that belong to a weaker version of a character when talking about a stronger version of them if you're using them to establish what the stronger version of that character should be capable of.
Okay. I think I see what he's trying to do. Okay, so basically, I know what he's talking about because I do have some of these people in my comments where, okay, so you guys know, in some of the recent videos, where I react to either Swagkage or sometimes it's Seth or anyone else. Whenever they talk about Naruto, especially in the Boruto era, one of my criticisms is that I wish that Sasuke would use some of the six paths abilities, that are granted to him by the Rinnegan. But I had someone in my comments say that that wouldn't work because Nagato could his almighty push can't even defeat Six Tails QB Chakra, well not QB Chakra, Six Tails Naruto when he went up against Pain. So because of that, Sasuke's almighty push would technically not do anything against, let's say, in the fight against Jigen. Like again, I always criticize, like that was my biggest criticism of the fight of Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen, is that Sasuke never thought to, hey, maybe I should utilize some of the six paths abilities. But one person's argument was because Nagato, when he was using the six paths of pain, especially Tendo Pain versus Six Tails Naruto, he tried to use Almighty Push, and it obviously didn't work because Six Tails Naruto was able to avoid that. Not even, and again, that to me always was a weird argument to make, because it seems like people have forgotten that how powerful a technique is depends on who's using it. So let's say, for example, Naruto and Konohamaru can both use their Rasengan. But I think everyone will agree that Naruto's Rasengan would be stronger than Konohamaru's because of who's using it. Because Naruto is stronger than Konohamaru, and Naruto, and again, the way jutsus work in this universe is that it depends on just how much chakra you're using. So let's say, for example, Naruto puts, let's say, 10 times more chakra into his Rasengan than, let's say, Konohamaru does. Obviously, Naruto's Rasengan would be stronger because of the amount of chakra he put in. And again, because Naruto himself is stronger than Konohamaru. That's why, for example, or let's say Sasuke versus Kakashi, both of them know how to use the Raikiri or the Lightning Blade Chidori, whatever you want to call it. But Sasuke's Chidori would be stronger than Kakashi's, even though one would argue Kakashi is the one who invented the Chidori. It doesn't matter because Sasuke is stronger and he can put more power into the Chidori than Kakashi would. Do you see what I mean? That's why, to me, that whole argument of, Nagato used Almighty Push against Six Tails Naruto, and if Naruto was able to overcome it, then it would make sense that someone like Jigen or any Six Paths level characters would be able to avoid it because they are stronger than Six Tails Naruto. But if they were going up against Nagato or Tendo Pain, then yeah, that argument would work, but that doesn't make any sense because the almighty push would be coming from adult Sasuke, who is confirmed to be a hell of a lot stronger than Nagato. You know what I mean? And if you want more proof, let's use an example from the same character. In the war arc, when Naruto and Killer Bee went up against Nagato and Itachi, the reanimated version of Nagato and Itachi, keep that in mind because it's important, because it's established that the reanimated versions of people are not as strong as that person was when they were alive. They're a little bit weaker, so keep that in mind. Nagato, in that fight, used Almighty Push, and he was able to push back Naruto and Killer Bee. And remember, this was KCM Naruto, which I think, if I remember, is confirmed to be stronger than any other version of Naruto that came before. So even Six Tails Naruto was not as strong as KCM Naruto. And yet an almighty push from Nagato was able to push him back. That's because you could argue that an almighty push from Nagato would be stronger, because if you remember, Nagato, the one that was in the Pain Invasion arc, was that weak skeletal version of Nagato, but after absorbing chakra using the Preta Path from Killer Bee, he was able to basically go back to looking like he normally would, his younger self. Which honestly, if you think about it, does make you wonder why he never did that before, but that's neither here nor there. So that's basically what I'm trying to say, and I think that's what Swag is trying to say here, that, just because someone could do something, so when someone did something when they were weaker, or let's say younger, and then they would use it again when they're older, naturally you would assume that it would be stronger than it was before. Like, let's say, for example, the example he's using here, Goku. this is Goku from the Namek arc, this is Goku from the Buu arc. Naturally, you would assume a Kamehameha from Goku from the Namek arc would be weaker than the Kamehameha from Goku from the Buu saga, because they get stronger over time. And that to me is something that I don't understand why people keep forgetting that fact. It's like they think that an ability never gets stronger over time. Like that just it makes no goddamn sense to me. But anyway, let's just move on. I've paused it long enough.
Bare minimum. It's a little bit different to use anti-feats or limits ascribed to weaker versions of a character to try and say that.
See, another example, because this Vegeta lost to Perfect Cell, that would be like saying, just because Vegeta lost to Perfect Cell, that no other version of Vegeta would ever be able to beat Perfect Cell. Like, imagine someone went out there and said that, oh, because Vegeta lost to Perfect Cell, Vegeta can never win. Even Vegeta who fought Moro, wouldn't be able to fight and win against Perfect Cell. Like, do you see what I mean? Do you understand how stupid that argument is?
A stronger version of that character shouldn't be capable of something, right? And let's add something else to the analogy too. Let's say we swap out adult Madara for kid Madara in the Jirobo fight, but we still have the rock throwing competition, right? It wouldn't really be fair to say that Madara summoned a meteor from outer space, so he should be able to throw a rock.
Hold on. Gotta do the math for a second.
62
Give me a second.
miles.
There you go.
Now, if you're still with me here, and we both agreed with everything that I just said, then we should also be willing to agree that if I say adult Sakura, like from Boruto, could beat Madara, like the one that fought Hashirama in the Final Valley with the 9 tails, stuff like this shouldn't really this shouldn't be relevant, right? Like we can ignore this because Boruto era Sakura is a lot stronger than the Sakura that's getting
this
handled
version
in this
of
image.
Sakura. And also keep in mind, he talked specifically about the Madara that fought Hashirama. I'm guessing from the flashback where Hashirama was telling the story of him and Madara to Sasuke. He's not saying that she would beat this version of Madara. I don't think she can beat this guy, if I'm being honest. No. 6 Paths Dual Rinnegan Madara would fondle any version of Sakura, even the current adult version. Because, yeah, this version of Madara was just way too goddamn strong. It's just not happening. Okay, but if she were to fight, let's say, Madara from... I mean, I guess it would depend. I mean, does he have the 9 tails or not? Again, it would depend. Again, I want to hear his arguments.
The Madara that's giving her the business is a lot stronger than the Madara we're talking about in this fight. So this, totally not indicative of how this fight would turn out at all. Alright, so now that all that's out of the way, let's actually start comparing these two. As for Madara, I don't really think I have to talk about him that much, or better yet, at all. I think my bases are covered there. I've talked about Madara pretty extensively in older videos, so we can mostly skip him for now, though I think most people would agree that we probably need to establish like some point of reference for him. Otherwise, no amount of discussing Sakura's abilities will really matter, because like we won't have an idea of what Madara could do. So I think we can all agree that Kaguya is stronger than Valley of the End Madara. Don't think that's a very hot take. Now, Sakura did damage Kaguya, like with a regular punch. And you can make all sorts of excuses for Kaguya here if you want. But the fact still remains at the end of the day that she did seem pretty hurt by one of Sakura's punches. And this isn't like a Goku getting damaged by a ray gun situation, because it's illustrated. Well, I mean, like, first of all, that's Dragon Ball rules anyway, so it's not really like applicable to Naruto. But even then, even if we did assume that these two universes operated in the same way, Goku was clearly stated to be off guard in that.
Well, I mean, they do kind of. I guess you could make the argument that they do kind of work in the same way, at least a little bit. I mean, remember, we are talking about a universe where Kaguya caught someone like Ishiki off guard, and she was able to leave him near death. Remember that. She was able to leave. And this is the same Ishiki who, well, I mean, see, the thing is, that's the problem with the Boruto manga is, man, it leaves a lot of things up in the air. Like it leaves way too many things up to interpretation because we don't know if Ishiki got stronger over time. Like we know he had a ten tail, so we don't know if he's been absorbing chakra from the ten tails in order to make himself stronger when he was inhabiting Ishiki's body. Because if Ishiki back then, when he got left near dead by Kaguya, was just as strong as the Ishiki that was fighting Naruto and Sasuke, the same Naruto and Sasuke who fused Momoshiki, then if you think about it, then that calls a bunch of things into question because Naruto and Sasuke currently, the way they are before, they got depowered and everything, you could argue they could put up a stronger fight against Kaguya. And if Kaguya, I'm guessing pre-chakra fruit, was able to leave an Ishiki Otsutsuki near death, and if the rules of this universe are not the same as the rules of the Dragon Ball universe, where no matter how strong you are, if you leave yourself unguarded, you can get injured by something as simple as a finger laser beam thing, then it does call some things into question because then if that's the case, Ishiki should not really be all that powerful. He shouldn't have been able to do what he did against Naruto and Sasuke if he was able to be left in a near-death state against someone who, against someone who is stated to be weaker than the current versions of the characters that he fought. If what I just said makes any sense. Do you see what I mean? This is why I think that the Boruto manga has so many problems because, and this is a problem. This was a problem in the Naruto story. So I'm not saying that this is Boruto exclusive. This was a problem in the Naruto manga, especially with Kishimoto's writings, that way too many details get left up to interpretation, and it's not good for a story. Like these are, and again, I'm not saying every single thing needs to be explained, but I'm just saying certain things that are important to the story that you are telling do need to be elaborated on, because again, we still have no idea when it comes to Ishiki. We don't know exactly how strong he is. We don't know if he was as powerful back then as he is now, or if he was weaker then and he got stronger because he, let's say, kept absorbing chakra from the Ten Tails in order to amp up his abilities. See, these are things that we don't really know, and we're just often left to just come up with our own interpretations. And I don't know, it's just, to me, I hate it whenever writers do that. It's just a sign of weak writing to me.
Situation, and I don't mean like a little bit surprised, like he was totally relaxed, whereas Kaguya here was in the middle of fighting for her life against Naruto and Sasuke, and she'd just been damaged by Kakashi too. Like there's really no reason to assume that she's not using chakra to defend herself. Now I'm not saying that Sakura could beat Kaguya one-on-one. That would obviously be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it is pretty impressive for her to have damaged Kaguya, especially when you're comparing her to somebody like Madara.
Also, I just noticed something I can't believe I never noticed before, but if you look at this, you can see Kaguya still has both of her horns, but if you saw the manga, this horn actually got broken, which I don't understand why they, I don't get why they removed that, because I mean you can see the blood from Kaguya and everything from Kakashi's lightning blade, and yet they didn't even think it. Did they think that removing a horn was too much, but blood was okay? I don't. Man, censorship is so fucking stupid. But yeah, I do get what he's saying. Again, like, no, he even said himself, Sakura could not be Kaguya one-on-one. That's just not gonna happen. It's just no. But I do get what he's saying. It is impressive that she was even able to damage someone like Kaguya at all. Maybe not that much, but the fact that she was even able to do it at all does say something.
Especially when you're comparing her to somebody like Madara. Kaguya was blatantly stated to be stronger than Six Paths Madara. Whether you think she'd actually beat him in a fight, kind of irrelevant here. Her raw chakra power level was higher than Madara's was. And again, that Madara was way stronger than the Madara we're talking about here, and Sakura managed to hurt her, at least enough to cause her to flinch and keep her from doing anything that could have protected her from Naruto and Sasuke sealing her with Chibaku Tensei. So, now that we got all these facts laid out on the table, I personally think it's fair to infer from these facts that Sakura would probably be capable of damaging Madara too, unless you really, really, really give Kaguya like every benefit of the doubt. Now this Sakura, the very same one that damaged Kaguya, is significantly weaker than the Sakura that we're talking about in this fight. Because there's a whole lot of time between the Kaguya fight and the Boruto era. And
about 16 years.
Over the course of the time skip, everyone seems to have received some pretty crazy power-ups. Like, okay, whether you like it or not, Kinshiki and Momoshiki should, at the very least, even if you lowball them, be somewhere around Kaguya's level. They were described as potentially greater threats than her, so I think at the bare minimum, they've got to be somewhat comparable to her, right? And then it's like, even after that is established, characters that aren't Naruto or Sasuke, characters without six paths powers, just fight them. And I don't know about you, but to me it looked like they were doing okay. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like we have a sort of Dragon Ball Super situation on our hands here, where, I don't know, Krillin or Tien could beat Super Buu, right? Like, it doesn't feel correct, and it probably shouldn't be true, but clearly it is. And for anybody who might be thinking, well, that's the 5 Kage, why would Sakura have received a similar power-up? Well, there are other examples of things like this. A really good one being Shikamaru locking down Kinshiki with Shadow Possession. Even if that doesn't do it for you, Sakura is directly compared to Gaara in the Gaara Hiden novel.
Hold on, let's read this. But then take Konoha's Haruno Sakura, for example. She didn't come from an unusual bloodline, but her strength made her an astoundingly great shinobi. In fact, there are a great number of normal people who, by polishing their techniques or with pure strength alone, had surpassed others. Gaara had seen many people that relied only on their bloodline and yet been unable to produce any real results. That's true.
And to paraphrase that book, what it basically says is that most medical ninja can't match somebody who's on, like, Gaara's level with their taijutsu, but Sakura was a notable exception. Whether you like it or not, when you have confirmation that Sakura's on the same level as some guy who was keeping up with another guy who was able to blow through the majestic attire Susanoo, I just don't know how I can say in good faith that she isn't stronger than Madara is. Now, you don't have to rely completely on the fact that Boruto has wacky power scaling if you want to argue that Sakura could beat Madara, but it's definitely the least controversial reason.
It does have wacky power scaling. It does, I'm sorry. Okay, this on its own, this just shouldn't even be happening. Like, I'm sorry, I know a lot of people love Jiraiya and he's strong and everything. I get it, but we're talking about a guy who lost to pain. Urashiki should just blink and this guy would die. I'm sorry. I love Jiraiya as much as the next guy. And you guys know, I've said it before, I fucking hate this guy. I fucking hate this character. I made one of my first few rant videos on this channel just based on this fucking guy alone. An episode that's focused on this guy and how it makes no fucking sense. Just keep in mind, you want to know why I don't count the... one second. Sorry. Okay, just something. But you want to know why I don't count this arc as even being canon? Why I want to forget that this arc even happened? So we're talking about a guy, Urashiki. So do you want to know what this guy could do? This guy has 2 versions of the fucking Rinnegan. He has 2 Rinnegans that are the same as the Rinnegan that Sasuke has, the Rinnegan with the 6 Tomoe, and he has 2 of them. He even has another pair of Rinnegan that are blue that gives him the ability to turn back time. Basically the same as what sort of Whis can do. He can turn back time, basically see an attack happen, turn back time, and then avoid it. And then he took those Rinnegan, the chakra that was in them, eat them, and then basically get stronger. And somehow he gets 2 new eyes. I don't know. And now he has a fucking golden Rinnegan, same thing that Momoshiki had. And he somehow lost to no, not even KCM. No, we're talking about Genin Naruto, one-tailed Kyuubi Chakra Cloak Naruto, who, let me remind you, lost to Part 1 Geni and Sasuke with curse mark level 2. A curse mark that is just a faux version of the Sage mode that Jiraiya actually has. And even the one he has is incomplete, and yet I would argue it's still stronger than the one that Sasuke had. And that version of Naruto lost to that. And yet somehow you're telling me that Naruto was able to damage this an Otsutsuki level character? Are you fucking kidding me? Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that rant, but my god, the second I saw that guy, it's like all of that fucking came back, and it was so fucking stupid.
Could provide.
But yes, all that to say is yes, Boruto does have some pretty wacky power scaling.
There's other stuff like her fight with Shin, the fact that Kishimoto strongly implied that
she cast her weakness aside and she became a stronger self. Sakura threw herself into severe training in order to catch up with Naruto Sasuke by means of an accurate chakra control she possesses by birth. She mastered medical ninjutsu. She made her hidden talent bloom very fast, and when she stood side by side with the two she had been following, her true strength was in full bloom like a cherry. Okay.
That she was at
cherry blossom.
Catching up to Naruto and Sasuke, yada yada yada. But I don't want to get into anything else here. The video's already gonna make enough people mad, so I will just stick with she punched Kaguya. Kaguya seemed pretty hurt. Then she got way more powerful over like 10 years or whatever. So in conclusion, I'm not gonna say that Sakura could beat Madara. But what I will say is, if she walked up to him and punched him, even if he like had the whole Susanoo thing going on, whatever, I don't really care what sort of defensive measures Madara takes. No matter what, if he stands there and lets her punch him, yeah, he'll probably die.
Okay, so there's the video. Yeah, so again, look, he even said it himself at the end. He doesn't think that Sakura could win, because the thing about Madara is that, you know, he's not just strong on his own. He does have a shit ton of hacks abilities. Like, for example, he has the EMS, which would be able to allow him to, you know, easily predict every single one of her attacks. And if it's a one-on-one fight, I personally think that Madara would still win, if I'm being honest. Madara is just one of the characters that's just way too fucking strong. And again, he even said it himself. Like, he doesn't think that Sakura could win. But like he said, if Madara were to do nothing and just allow Sakura to attack, then yeah, it would be able to. She would be able to damage him at least. I personally think if it's a one-on-one fight and if it's a serious fight, if Madara wasn't doing what he usually does, which is, you know, underestimate his opponents, allow them to do whatever because he's having fun with the fight, or, you know, I personally think that he would kill her. He would kill her. But anyway, guys, that's the video. Let me know if you enjoyed it in the comment section down below. Remember to like the video, share the video, subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell for notifications. You know what to do. And also, as always, I have to remind you, if you have a video you want me to watch, just let me know about it in the comment section down below and I will get to it. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching again. Look forward to the next reaction. Bye for now.